Cool. All right, everybody. Great to see everyone again. So yeah, I'm Adam, co-founder of Castle Finance. The rest of the team is back home, just grinding, coding away, and here I am, lucky enough to talk to you guys. So yeah, the backdrop of Castle is that we're building safe investment products for DAOs. So again, backdrop is that DAO treasuries have grown to the tens of billions over the last year. A little bit lower now, unfortunately, but if we assume that DAOs are the future of sort of corporations and other sorts of organizations, those numbers will continue to grow. And so as they've gained lots of assets in their treasuries, just like any other responsible corporation or institution, they need to be able to responsibly manage those kinds of funds. And given that DeFi up until this point has mostly been just for degens, crazy thousands of percent APYs, lots of hidden risks, rug pulls, like we just kind of talked about. Those kind of risks are not really acceptable for DAOs if we want to move forward and mature the space and sort of raise the bar for crypto as a whole. And so we set out to build a set of safe investment products for these DAOs. And initially, we're starting off with just stablecoins. So we sort of see DAOs having three different kinds of token asset classes: stablecoins, governance tokens, and native token, like Sol in this case. So we're going to be building products for all three of those, but our first one is just the Castle Vault. So so the Castle Vault basically takes in stablecoins and automatically forwards those to a various set of lending markets. All the lending markets are open source. They're all audited, and we've just sort of gone through them and talked to the teams to make sure that they all have good operational security practices. There's a lot of other, I feel like Solana, it's sort of endemic that a lot of projects are closed source. You don't really know how they work. And again, I think if we need to sort of raise the bar for security in DeFi, and especially on Solana. So gonna show off our landing page because we just sort of did a whole facelift, and it feels good to show everyone. So yeah, we're working with the header here, Treasury yield on autopilot. We're thinking of framing it to basically just a savings account for your DAO. It's something that every single person should have. It's definitely something that every single corporation should have. Again, most corporate treasurers, they're not going to spend all their cash that they earned from revenue or from VC funding and put it into Tesla stock. They're going to put it into treasury bonds or things like that. So that's the kind of experience we're trying to replicate here with the first product. So yeah, go over blah, 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 little landing page. Got the support of Solana Ventures, so thanks, guys. But yeah, so here we can see we currently have 1 million in TVL. The APYs is basically a blended version of all of these. So right now the rates are obviously low, given the market conditions, but as things pick up again, those rates are going to increase. So nothing else more than what I just talked about, but again, it's nice to look at our pretty landing page. So yeah, we're trying to build everything just exactly for DAOs. We can also build custom vaults. And so for example, if Jet Protocol is looking to, I know they're about to spin up their DAO. The whole point of diversification is diversifying risk across just diversifying in general. And so Jet, for example, they don't want exposure to themselves. And so we're going to spin up a custom vault, or we can do that actually does not send money to Jet itself. And you can apply the same concept with oracles. So if you're Switchboard and you don't want exposure to your own protocols that use your own Switchboard, you can only spin up vaults or you can spin up a vault that only accesses markets that use Pyth instead. So there's a whole slew of different kinds of ways of diversifying risk with your protocol. So yeah, this is the old user interface. It's pretty simple, deposit and withdraw. And then this is a new one that we've recently, let's see if we can just, yeah, so homepage, TVL, total yield earned so far. Thankfully, we have $1 million, which is pretty cool. And we just have one cute little vault right here for now, but we'll be spinning it up for other reserve tokens like Sol, wrapped Bitcoin if you want, literally anything. Depends on what the DAOs really want because we're building for the DAOs. So we can click inside here and yes. So again, this is just the UI, it's pretty standard stuff. we highlight the yield sources that this vault currently accesses. And so we have Port, Jet, Solend, and we sort of try to like emphasize that they've all been audited and open sourced. Here's the current allocations that our algorithm is choosing. And so right now it's picking Jet and Solend to deposit into. We have a little blurb here that goes into more information, and I'll show our docs later. And then we're trying to just actually display like the stats of like these markets. A lot of this data hasn't really been shown before, and so it's kind of cool to actually see like, okay, like the Castle APY is like a blend of all these three, and Solend is mostly like the highest. Like they do like liquidity mining, so they have a lot of like volume on their lending market. Jet's about to launch, like, I think they already open sourced their V2, and so there's like we can so like all these markets have like development underway, and I'm sure these numbers will increase as well as the market conditions change. And yeah, just some basic stats as well, and transaction history. So yeah, that's basically it. Really important thing is that it's most of these like DeFi protocols, it's a very simple interface, like deposit, withdraw at the end of the day. But what's really important is all of the details inside of it. So we've tried to be very clear with like the documentation about how these things work. What are the different like risk management measures that are in place, like overexposure controls. We don't lend to other markets that are close to like 100% utilization rate, because there's like liquidity risks there. Again, like we make sure that everything is audited, open sourced. And we also have like an emergency break feature on our end where we can withdraw the money from the various lending pools if like there's like Solana congestion or other kinds of like market turmoil. And then you just like flip it off, and then the program automatically like redeploys that capital back into the lending markets. And so of course we have a lot of stuff on the roadmap that you can read into it. Yes, and of course, wouldn't be complete without a Realms sort of integration. And so from here, from the user interface, any DAO can choose to deposit or withdraw from the vaults. I made a little video here in my apartment going over that. And then again, here it is live, just like any other sort of, you guys know how it works. I bet everyone's done this in this room. But yeah, you just make a proposal, do deposit, select your amounts, your source accounts, deposit, the deposit vault, and go from there. And here's an example of a current treasury. So this is the one that I set up, and it has like, you have to seed every single treasury with Sol. Give it a little bit of USDC or the reserve currency. And then you can see that I made a deposit earlier and a withdraw for a little bit less. And we have some Castle USDC LP token sitting in there. Anchor's been making a lot of really cool changes. And so again, like with the purpose of being like transparent and having everything like clearly documented, we've tried to take advantage of the annotation features in Anchor. So you can actually from here you can just click into that, and it'll take us to the Explorer page where you can actually see all of the data that goes into here. And so I always like looking at the allocations and also the configuration. So you can see like the kind of algorithm that we're using, the allocation caps, the strategy itself, and of course, the classic reserve space, because we're going to put a lot more information in these programs. And so, yeah, that's basically it. Again, it's like open sourced, so you can like look through the code, see how it works, click around. We also have some, I think this is private. Yeah, this is basically like our heartbeat that just like refreshes the vaults like every like minute or so. We also do some optimizations. So we have we do like convex optimization to basically like when you deposit money into one of these lending markets, you change the rates. And so when you're handling like lots of size, so like a DAO wants to put in like $10 million, whether it's withdrawing it or depositing it, you change those rates. And so if like a lending market that only has a little bit of liquidity, but it has like the highest yield or highest like APY rate for some reason, if you like deposit like $10 million into a market that only has like $1 million of liquidity, you're going to smash those rates all the way to like zero. And so in order to handle this scale, which is what like this product is designed for, we do like optimizations to actually predict, because it's all based on the math of the lending market. And so you can do an optimization to like properly balance and maximize the yield, taking into account the liquidity of these underlying lending markets. Little technical, but I mean, this is the good stuff. And I would really like to encourage everyone to check out our blog. Again, we did a cute little fundraising announcement. But yeah, I like encourage everyone who has a DAO to read our stuff because it's like really, really good. Taha, he used to work in a real assets hedge fund and like esoteric banking. And we're bringing on more folks with corporate treasury backgrounds to really like solidify like our stances on these kinds of things. But this post is really good. Like, okay, every sort of DAO has stable coins. They need stable coins to pay for like operating expenses. And if you're smart with your treasury, you can sustain your team's like salaries by using like these sort of safe yielding strategies. And so, yeah, like the basics of treasury management and all these like fundamentals just needs to be like known by the community because a lot of us come from like engineering backgrounds and don't really have experiences in finance. So really encourage everyone to like read this kind of stuff. It's actually pretty interesting. And I think it's important education that DAOs all need in order to like secure their financial futures. Yeah, that's basically it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. I feel like a common question I get is, these DAOs have such large treasuries. Why aren't they putting their treasuries to work? Even at Olympus, we had a huge treasury, but there was so much going on that we really didn't utilize our treasury at all. Even though there was on Ethereum, there was a lot of tooling around treasury management. And so I know you've chatted with a bunch of DAOs. I'm curious, do you feel like, the reason that DAOs are kind of underutilizing their treasury is sort of a lack of tooling, or is there some other reason there that's preventing them from putting the treasury into action? And if so, how can we address that underlying reason?
Yeah, I think, you sort of see this with most like fintech products today, where every single like new app is basically trying like to get retail to like save, or like there's like a million different kinds of like products and apps out there that are like nudging people like and corporations. Like a really good example is ramp.com. So like there's like billions of dollars being invested into companies like this that are trying to make it as easy as possible to like save and manage your spending. And it's not something that people just sort of think about because at the end of the day, it's all this like numbers, and we don't really, I don't know. You see, it's like not everyone has like a good intuitive sense for like, oh, like, I'm getting charged a 1% fee on this, product. Like 1% is not that low or not that high, but over the long term, like that dramatically, like kind of like cuts out your gains. So there's like, it's just like hard, and it's not something that most people think about. It's like, how many of us have looked at our budgets over the last like week or month? Probably like not many, but we all have these like apps like Truebill and like Acorns to sort of help us with like savings. So DAOs are like people at the end of the day, and it's just like these kinds of financial concepts and like responsible activities. Not everyone does, and so I think the same thing applies to DAOs. We need like really easy tooling to help enable DAOs to like, again, secure their financial futures.
It makes me think that there's also like value in having a dedicated, treasury management position within the DAO. Someone thinking about this stuff and just pushing forward what's possible there as well.
Yeah, I think some of the content pieces that we want to write are about like a little like playbook for setting up like a corporate treasurer or someone who has expertise into the space. Again, like you need someone to be like someone needs to be like the DRI, like the directly responsible individual. And so that not just applies to technology or someone who's on call, but also for finance. Cool. Any other questions? Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.